Good evening, everybody. This is our AEW Dynamite review for the 2nd of February 22. Myself, Jason, and I've got Russell here as well. Hi, Russell.
Hi.
So what we're going to, this is our first attempt. So, we'll see how we go. We're just going to run through, the card as it was on the day. We're just going to give you our takes, really. So we'll see what you think. So the first match on this card was John Moxley versus Wheeler Yuta. The first thing that I noticed as well on this one was that it was originally scheduled to be Brian Kendricks, who was meant to make his debut. So that was, but later I've since found out that something happened on social media with Brian Kendricks, so he wasn't here. So they've put in Wheeler Yuta instead, which, personally, that didn't really do it for me, to be quite honest, that match. I thought they could have done something a bit better than Wheeler Yuta. Personally, I don't think he really has got any kind of real gimmick. I don't think he looks interesting. He's pretty okay, wrestling wise, but I just don't. To me, he doesn't do anything, and the whole stable really doesn't seem to be really making a massive impact, really. But I tell you what I did like. Danhausen was around the ring with the best friends, and he kind of really, I think he really fits. He fits in AEW, but I also think he fits with Orange Cassidy, because I think he's kind of like that kind of comedy character. So I think he sort of he looked good, around that match. Moxley as well. I think he looked noticeably bigger this week. So yes, last week I thought he looked really, really, really like he'd lost a lot of weight, obviously been in rehab and stuff. But I just felt, I don't know what you thought, Russell, but I thought he looked better this week. I think he's not my cup of tea, if I'm honest. But I think he looked mean. He looked bigger, and he looked like he were really, in a bit better shape. And he looked. I tell you what, also that I'm thinking about Moxley. He feels like he's going more heel to me. So I don't know if this is something that's going to come up, or whether it's just how he's feeling right now. But it definitely came across as, he's meant to be sort of a face, but came across quite brutal and quite heelish, which I personally like him better as a heel, actually. So I think that was a good thing. But so the match for me wasn't anything super interesting, really. Moxley looked good to me. I like Danhausen turning up. I think he's going to be a real good asset to AEW. I just don't want them to push him too much. Like, I think they might have overpushed Orange Cassidy for me. I think he's more of a comedy guy. I don't really think he's main event, but that's just my opinion. So that's my take on that, Russell. So over to you.
No, I agree. I mean, I've always been a fan of Moxley. He definitely looks different. He has slimmed down considerably. I thought going with Wheeler Yuta as a replacement for Brian Kendrick was an odd choice. I agree. Having said that, the match was much more competitive this time around. But I still wouldn't have picked Yuta. I would have gone with somebody else. Don't know who, but not him. I don't know much about Danhausen. I feel bad for Brian Kendrick in a way, because I think a move to AEW would have been good for him. That's just my personal opinion, but I can understand why they decided not to go down that route. The match was okay, like you say, nothing special really. And I agree that they could be showing signs of potentially turning Moxley heel. Not sure how that would go down. So yeah.
That's it. I agree. I think it's disappointing not to see Brian Kendricks. And I think what was interesting, I'm not going to go into the details, but it seems like this thing happened, years and years ago. Yet he's been with WWE since very recently. So that to me sounded a bit strange, and that's one thing that if there's one thing for me that about AEW that really they tend to whereas WWE will turn more of a blind eye to things. AEW not really that kind of company, because I suppose it's the network that they're working on, I suppose. But I would have been tempted to give people a bit more leeway, really, because I mean, other people have said things and they've come back. But like you say, that's another story altogether. And Danhausen though does look an interesting character though, doesn't he?
Yeah, definitely.
So okay, so that was the first match on the card there. Quite a big card, this one actually, which there was a lot of stuff in here. The second thing that came on really was the Bryan Danielson Moxley interview, which I really liked that actually, and I am a big fan of Bryan Danielson actually, or Bryan Danielson, whatever you want to say. But I just think he looks really legit, and I think the problem with a lot of people in AEW, well, some of the people at least, is they don't really look legit. They tend to be a bit too. I mean, I like my high flyers, but I quite like that style. But I think there's quite a lot of talent that doesn't look really legit. And and if you bumped into on the street, you wouldn't sort of know that they were a professional wrestler or a tough guy or whatever. So, but he does, even though Bryan Danielson's not really like a big guy, when if you see him on, you think he looks quite muscular, but when you look at him, he's not a particularly big guy, but he wrestles in a very good style, in quite an aggressive style. So I thought this was a great interview because the last week when he confronted Moxley after the match, I was really fully expecting to start a program with Moxley. And this was a really nice surprise, and it was and this is one of the things that AEW does really well. They do things that you don't expect, and the twists are really, really good. So this was quite unexpected, and it was a nice surprise because I thought, I can really, and I hope they go forward with the tag team, the Moxley Danielson tag team, maybe taking someone under the wing like they suggested. I think that would be really, really interesting. So I think this was a really, really good segment. And this is what these interview segments should be about, really, building something up and building some kind of storyline rather than just having someone coming on and just having having a rant about something. So that, to me, I really like that segment.
It was a strong segment. It's definitely an interesting direction that they're going in with that. As you say, I fully expected them to start a rivalry between Danielson and Moxley. So a tag team is a different approach. But let's see where they go with it. Could be fun.
Yeah, I think, and I think eventually the plan will be to have them split up and feud. But I can certainly see Moxley turning heel anyway, actually. So for him to turn heel and join Danielson, to me, that's not that big a stretch. And I think it opens up some really big matches as well. We've got a lot of good. The tag team division in AEW now is super deep. There's so much good talent there now. I mean, there's more good tag teams in AEW than there is in the rest of the industry put together, I think. So it's stacked, really. So that's quite interesting. The next thing that on the show was a nice video package of MJF and CM Punk, and I just thought that was really well done. And one of my criticisms of AEW for a little while has been that they don't really they're not very good at video packages. Whereas I'm not a fan of WWE, as you know, but that's one thing that WWE does really well. They do good video packages, and it helps to build the matches and build feuds and build characters as well. But AEW has kind of been left behind on that. So I think this was hopefully this was not just a one-off. Hopefully it was something that they're going to do kind of going forward, really, because I just think that was a really good, and it made me want to see the match even more, even though I want to see it anyway. It really made me kind of want to see the match, and that's what these things are supposed to be for. It's just a promo video, really, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I agree. It was well put together. It is something that WWE do well. So maybe if AEW wants to continue to present itself as a credible alternative going forward, then perhaps more segments like that is the answer.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'd like to see. I mean, I don't mind the good matches and stuff, but having sort of dream matches every week and start to finish. I don't think that's. I think you need to do more than that. Especially when you're trying to build stars and things. You can't just have your match and then straight into another match. You need to have interviews. You need to have some vignettes and things. I think that's quite important, and I think so. Hopefully they will go down that road because they are well behind on that respect for me. So anyway, the next segment as well, another one was, and this will be this will be interesting to get your take on this as well, Russell, because I've got very kind of strong opinions on this. So, Brandy Rhodes and Dan Lambert, so I'll kind of rewind a little bit for me. The last few Dan Lambert interviews I've kind of enjoyed, but they felt a bit scripted to me, like he was kind of reading off a script. Didn't seem that genuine really as much. This one felt the best he's done yet to me. Felt like it was really spontaneous, and really I enjoyed it actually. I mean, I'm not a fan at all of Brandy. I've got a very, very big dislike of Brandy and Cody. In fact, I think she's got zero talent. She's being pushed for the only reason is because she's obviously married to Cody Rhodes. She's got no ability, very, very little ability for me. I don't think she's likable at all. But the fact that he went after her, and I just thought it was a really, really good interview. I was very entertained by it. The fact that she got effectively dressed down by Dan Lambert. So I think it was a bizarre segment. I don't really not understand why, other than the fact that Brandy Rhodes has got to get on TV because she's an egomaniac. I don't really understand why this segment happened, but actually I liked it, because I like Dan Lambert. I agree with much of what Dan Lambert says anyway, and obviously I completely detest Brandy Rhodes. So for me, it was a really nice segment. And the last thing on this one that I really, really liked is I really like Paige Van Zandt. I followed MMA for a little while, more in the past. She's very, very talented, very, very charismatic. And if I was AEW, I would be using Paige Van Zandt a lot. To me, she could be AEW's version of Ronda Rousey for me, I think. So I'm just hoping she's not going to be some sort of fodder for Brandy Rhodes to just get a victory, because she's a million times more talented than Brandy Rhodes. She's a million times more charismatic. And she could be, I think, a really big star. So that's my thoughts, Russell.
Personally, I didn't like it. I'm bored of the back and forth between Brandy and Dan Lambert already. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with your assessment of Brandy Rhodes. She does nothing for me. Sorry, other than her attractiveness, obviously. But yeah, as an in-ring talent, and on the mic, nah. I don't think she needs to try and get herself on screen as much as they're currently doing with her and Cody, as you say. I think for me they're taking up too much TV time, which would be better suited going to other people. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think we very kind of agree on Brandy Rhodes. I think, to be honest, the general consensus when you read social media as well is that she's not particularly popular with anyone really, other than probably Cody. So it just looks like I mean, what I do think will work eventually is when Cody eventually does turn heel, and she becomes possibly his heel manager or valet. I think that would be a major heat, heel heat, because I can't think of two people who are more hated right now in wrestling than those two. So when they eventually turn heel, I think this is going to be very big, actually.
Do you think that will happen though? Because he said in an interview a few weeks back that he wouldn't turn.
I think this is all. I think this is all the plan. I think this is long-term booking. I think he will turn. I think he's just trying to see how far he can push it and see how hated that both he and Brandy can get. Because I mean, you don't hear those kind of boos really. That I mean, really, apart from sort of maybe MJF and people like that, you don't really hear that kind of booing ever. And I just think that I think actually I'm not a fan of Cody, and I never have been really, but I think the fact that he's gone from being like one of the biggest faces in the company within a year or two to becoming like almost the biggest heel is quite an amazing transformation, really. I mean, it's not easy to do, really, going from the biggest face to the biggest heel in really short time. So I just think, and I'll tell you now, Russell, what my prediction is, and see if this comes to pass. I think eventually Cody Rhodes will turn heel. He'll join with probably with Tully Blanchard and FTR, and I believe they'll start a Horseman group. That's my prediction.
Okay.
I believe he'll be almost like the Ric Flair type figure in like a hot new Horseman. That's my prediction on that. But we'll see. But I don't think this is. I think they're going to drag this out because I think they like the heat that they're getting. Whether you like, I mean, not a lot of people really have got a lot of time for either of them, but they do generate heat, and I think that's good for the company, I think. So, okay, any more on that, Russell? Any more to say on Cody or Brandy?
Not that I can think of. I just hope they don't just end up going back to that again next week, because that segment kind of bored me a bit. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I feel like they will. I feel like they'll keep pushing this thing until it gets so bad that there'll be a big heel turn. That's what I think. But we'll see anyway.
Yeah.
The next little again, another little segment really was, it's now the AHFO, I think, the Andrade Hardy family office. I think this stable is complete waste of time, if I'm honest. I don't really see. I don't think this has been going anywhere for a long time. I think it's a waste of Matt Hardy. I think he's more talented than this. It's keeping these young guys busy, I suppose, but I don't really see. I mean, when I hear that the HFO coming to the ring, or they've got a match, it doesn't interest me, actually, to be quite honest. So I think they need to sort of move on from this ASAP. The only thing I do like about this situation is I do actually like, I think Andrade looks like a star. The only thing about him as well is that I find him very hard to understand. He seems to mumble a bit, and obviously his English is not great, but I suppose it's better than my Spanish, I suppose. But it looks like the part, but you have to really kind of turn the volume up and really listen to understand what the guy's saying. So I just don't think I think he's the creative around Andrade since he's been in AEW has been really bad, actually. I wouldn't have put him in this position. I wouldn't have put him as a guy who's doing a lot of talking, managing people. He's very charismatic though, and he is a star, but he's just been messing around in tag teams and having like meaningless feuds against people that make no sense. And he's getting involved with other groups as well, which I don't think any of it makes sense. Whoever's booking Andrade, I just wonder I don't know what they're doing really, if I'm honest. So, but it does look good. But yeah, I just think the storyline's been all over the place. So I'd like to see this group completely dismantled, really, and just started again, really. And maybe Andrade put with someone else, maybe even someone like Penta and Phoenix or something, somewhere, a group that sort of fits more with him. So that's my thought, really.
I agree. Yeah, Andrade is a great wrestler, and he was always someone that I felt was underutilized in WWE. But yeah, the booking of his character in AEW has been pretty random. Um, and yeah, he's been bounced from feud to feud to feud. Started off wrestling Pac, and then we've moved on quite quickly from there to, as you say, this thing with the Hardy family office, and I agree, it just makes zero sense. Yeah, they need to do something different with him because the association with the Hardy crew is just not working.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a waste of a talent there, because I think you've got a really good talent in Andrade, but obviously this is the problem. You see, you can have the best talent, but if they're not booked right, if they're not used correctly, and if the storylines aren't good, they're not going to go anywhere. And this is the problem, I think, what's happening with Andrade and the all Hardy family office, really, if I'm honest. So that was that one. Okay, so we're on now. We've got a match actually now, which quite unusual. This was an unusual show for AEW because they had quite a lot of segments. And I'd be interested to get your take on that as well. But for me, I actually really like that idea because they've tended to be very much like wrestling, start to finish, which is okay. But I like to see a bit of storyline. I like to see some characters coming out. And so this was actually quite a good show for me. I like this format a little bit better, actually.
Yeah.
So the next one was actually a match, which was so we got Pac and Penta against the Kings of the Black Throne. One first thing I noticed, and I don't know if you noticed this, Russell, was that this is again another little a bit of a dig at AEW again, professionalism. The video caption came up, Knights of the Black Throne, which kind of found quite annoying because obviously somebody doesn't even know what the tag teams are called, so you would expect them to get that right, which I just think it's laziness, really. I mean, I understand like Tony Khan can't do everything, but you need to be getting the basics right, really. If you don't know what your tag teams are called, you've got a bit of a problem. But other than that, I thought the match was amazing. I love the Kings of the Black Throne. They are, to me, they might be my favorite tag team right now. I love Malachi Black. I love the gimmick. I love I love everything. I love the entrance. I love the skills. And Brody King as well. I think they are champions on the independent scene as well. I think, which really helps, given that continuity. But it was a great match. I mean, Penta and Pac, I think they're great as well. Amazing talents. I thought it was a very good match. These two teams for me probably up there with the best teams in AEW. So I really like that, and I'd like to see, if it was me, I'd book in these guys, the Kings of Black Throne, up to the title for me. Get them on a few nice little matches, few nice feud or whatever, and then because I'm not feeling it with the Jungle Boy Luchasaurus champions, really. I think these guys would make much better champions for me.
Okay. Yeah, it was a great match. They built up Malachi and Brody really well, I think. And it's good that they're still doing something with the two remaining members of the Death Triangle while Phoenix is out with an injury. Have they said how long it's going to be before he comes back?
No, I imagine it's going to be a little. I mean, I think he dislocated his elbow, didn't he? So I think we're looking at a little while. A little while yet.
So yeah, I agree that they'd definitely be stronger champions than Jurassic Express, but from a personal standpoint, I prefer Malachi Black as a singles wrestler. That's just me.
Mm, yeah, yeah, that's fair. That's a fair comment actually, and again, I think what we said about Andrade. I think we can say the same about Malachi Black with the booking. I think his
Yeah,
booking coming in was not good. Again, meaningless feuds. It was just seemed like he was plucked out as an opponent for Cody because Cody wanted to feud or something. I think it's been a bit all over the place. And this is again another criticism about AEW. I don't think they're booking certain people right. He could, you would have expected Malachi Black to be pushed. Got a few. He's got quite a few wins, and then giving some sort of title shot or title run or something for me. So I agree with that, but I think the team's going to end up being a very good team as well.
yeah,
So the next little interview segment was the Adam Cole interview. And I know you obviously you follow WWE and NXT. I don't follow that at all, Russell. So it'd be interesting to get your opinion on Adam Cole as well. For me, I think he's very, very charismatic. I think he's a great character. He's very charismatic. But the problem I've got with Adam Cole is he looks very, very small.
yeah.
And not only small, but he looks like he looks like he hasn't ever been to the gym to me, which, is all right, for a normal guy. But when you're in in the wrestling ring, you need to have, to me, you need to look a bit more like, you know, um, like you've got some sort of like for example, Pac's a small guy, quite small guy, but he's built up and he looks dangerous. Whereas I don't get that. I don't get that feeling from Adam Cole. I feel like there was the other week where he had a segment or end of the match when he came face to face with Chris Statlander. Chris Statlander was noticeably bigger in every way than Adam Cole, and it just, to me, it doesn't look good. I don't think. I mean, he's all right where he is, but if you was to push Adam Cole for a title, I just don't think it's believable. And I'm not a fan of Vince McMahon at all. I'm not a fan of WWE or Vince McMahon. But this is the one on the very few occasions where I agree with Vince. Vince McMahon didn't like Adam Cole because he thought he was too small.
I
Um,
really, I didn't know
yeah,
that.
and I don't think he was just because of his, like, not because he's particularly tall. But I just don't think he looks like a star. I think he just looks like I'd want to get him into some sort of like training regime, really, if it was me, because I think he's got everything else. He's got the talent, he's got the look, he's got the charisma. The look, but it just doesn't have the body. He doesn't have the muscularity to sort of get over the fact that he's a dangerous wrestler, really. So that's my thought on Adam Cole, really.
Um, yeah, it's interesting what you say about Vince McMahon not being a fan of his, because I did wonder if that might be part of the reason why he was never moved up to the main roster from NXT. Because he did pretty much everything there was to do in NXT. He held every championship at one point, I believe. So from that perspective, I can see why AEW are pushing him, but I'm kind of with you on the believability. He is a small guy and doesn't really look the part.
Mm.
So
Yeah, that's what I think about. I mean, I think, if they got him into some sort of program, training program, got him, I mean, he doesn't have to be. I mean, AEW is not, on the whole, he's not a promotion with loads of big men anyway. So you don't have to suddenly look like Scott Steiner, but
no,
you want to me, you want to look a bit more believable. I mean, what I was thinking when I was watching that match is, if you was to come in face to face in a bar with Adam Cole, he's not going to be intimidating anybody. he's just going to be looking like, you know, some little guy who's walked in. That's what I think. And to me, and especially if you're a champion, you need to have that aura about you that you look dangerous. That's just what I think anyway. So that's me. So I think he can turn it round, but that's what I think that problem. And I think there's a few of these people in AEW as well, that where the dust don't look believable. I mean, I don't dislike Rio particularly, but again, she's not believable. I mean, I've seen bigger small children, you know, so to me, it's not really that believable. So I think, you know, I think that's something that I would look at and sort of think to myself, okay, if you're going to push Adam Cole, to me, you can't push him into the world title scene. Currently, it's just, I mean, maybe a TNT title, something like that would be okay, but I certainly couldn't. You couldn't see him against someone like Lance Archer. Imagine Miro against Adam Cole. It looked ridiculous, really. I think so. So that's my thought anyway on that. The next match was where I really like I was looking at 4.5 stars for the show up to this match, and then it went completely through the floor then, because we got Nyla Rose versus Ruby Soho. And I intensely dislike Nyla Rose. Not like in a heel heat way, but in a like want to turn the TV off way. I intensely dislike this person, really. To the point where I don't even like look at her matches. I don't even take notice of what's going on. I generally get a cup of tea or a snack. So and I like Ruby Soho, which is a shame because I think Ruby Soho's got a lot of talent and she's got a really nice gimmick. Looks really it's really different. But I just didn't, to be honest, I didn't watch the match because I don't watch Nyla's matches. Find her boring, find her clunky, talentless. Don't find it. She's got no charisma at all for me. And the crowd was dead. I mean, we went, you know, to me the show was quite, up to this point, I think it had been, even Brandy, I think the crowd had been into it, even if they might have been booing her, but the crowd was dead, and it's always is. And I don't understand why they're pushing this person at all, other than to tick some diversity box. I just don't get it, because I don't know anybody who likes Nyla at all, really. So that I was, to be honest, I had a break, I had a snack in this one. So I don't know what the match was like, but I was disappointed in the result because I was hoping that they would put Ruby Soho over. So that was even more disappointing then. So it went from being like 1.5 stars to 0.5 star for me. It was just terrible. So that's my take on that, Russell.
Yeah, I did watch the match, but I've got to be honest, I kind of lost interest about halfway through because I'm with you on Nyla Rose. I don't, for the life of me, understand why they are pushing her. Her matches are boring, as you say. There was no crowd heat at all. She just does nothing for me. I would also have preferred to have seen Ruby Soho go over in that one. There's something about Ruby Soho. You know, she's different. She's got an edgy look, and she's about 1 million times more talented than Nyla. So why they didn't give Ruby the win in that match is beyond me. I think pushing Nyla is just senseless.
Yeah. Don't make any sense to me, and I just keep thinking that eventually they're going to realize and just kind of start. I mean, luckily they've kept her pretty much away from the title picture for a little while, thankfully. But I'm afraid that they're going to keep pushing her up the card all the time, and the thing is, there's so many. When AEW first started, the women's division was a car crash. Actually, there was nothing going on other than maybe Britt Baker. Really, there was nothing really happening. But now they've got some good talent in now, so there's no excuse to be pushing someone like that. Really, I don't think so.
Yeah, I've written down Nyla Rose still sucks.
Yeah. No, we agree on that, really. So we definitely agree on that. But the crowd was really, really dead. And that's not what you want before you're running up to your main event. Really, obviously, you can't keep that momentum going. Probably, 5-star all way, but you don't really want to be letting your people walk away just before your main event. Really, I think that's bad booking. But anyway, that's me. So the next, it picked up anyway after that quite rapidly. Really, we had Adam Page interview. And again, I don't know what you think about this, Russell, but he hadn't blown me away either, really, to be honest, Adam Page as a champion.
No.
I'm not a hater of Adam Page. I think he's a good talent. I think it was a mistake though when they built him up for a couple of years with the Kenny Omega feud, and then Adam Page, basically wasn't available for the pay-per-view where he was meant to be challenging Omega. And I think they lost a lot of momentum then. When Christian Cage kind of stepped in, to me, that was a big mistake. Lost all the momentum that they built up. They lost much of that. And when Adam Page did win the title eventually, which obviously was part of the plan, I don't think it was as big a victory as it would have been if they'd kind of followed where they were going with it, really. So I think that was a mistake. I would have been tempted if he couldn't have made the pay-per-view or couldn't have made the date. I would have been tempted to move on from him and come back later and build it up again. That's what I would have done. But the interview was okay. He's one of them guys where I don't dislike him, but I'm not super excited either. He's okay, and he might be a good talent in a few years, but I don't think he was ready for the world title right now. I think there's other people who I would have pushed forward. But he looked better as well. The one thing I would say, look, last week or the week before, not sure, when he came out for an interview, he didn't look like a champion. He looked like he was some sort of YMCA kind of character with what he was wearing. He's like some weird t-shirt. Didn't kind of come across as a champion or a star at all, really. But he did look a bit better this week. It looked like he'd put a bit more effort into what he was doing, and he looked a little bit better. So that was okay. Then there was Lance Archer, and I like Lance. I'm actually a big Lance Archer fan. Actually, really like him. But what I didn't understand is why has he got two managers? I didn't really get that. I didn't understand why Jake the Snake Roberts is there, and I don't understand why Dan Lambert's there either. That was never explained.
No, I didn't.
I thought that was really bizarre. It just didn't make sense. And this is another little thing about AEW. They did seem to do these things without any explanation. If they'd have done some interview segment and said, okay, yeah, Dan Lambert's involved with Archer for some reason, then but there's no explanation. He just turned up one day, and it just looked really odd that both him and Jake was cutting an interview together. It just looked really, really odd to me. But I like the beatdown of Adam Page by Lance Archer. I thought that was really good. And that's a good setup for their match for next time. I don't think Lance Archer will win the title. Personally, I think I don't think that'll happen. But it'll be a good match. And as I say, I like Lance Archer. So, but I just thought, really, if I was booking a champion like an Adam Page, I would have put a bit more thought into this storyline rather than just seems like they've gone, oh, we haven't got anyone to fight Adam Page. So I'll tell you what, we'll just bring Lance Archer back. It just seemed like it almost felt a bit like last minute. Like, well, we haven't got anything else to do. Well, tell you what, he's not doing anything. So that's what I think anyway, Russell.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. Adam Page is not really a credible champion in my eyes. I thought the blackout through the table looked good. So yeah, I mean, the Texas Death Match should be interesting. I don't think Lance Archer will win because it's Page's first title defense. But yeah, I like Lance Archer as well. He is credible. He is believable, and yeah, I don't know what else to say on that really.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement on that really. I mean, if they were to put Lance Archer over in a big shock victory, I wouldn't be opposed to that. I don't think they will do because, like you say, I don't think he's been champion long enough. But I think if things don't pick up around Adam Page, I can see him moving the title off him soon, actually, because I think there's a lot of people who would do a better job, really. So we'll see what happens in that match. It'd be a good match, though, I think.
Yeah.
So the next one was another little interview with Chris Jericho about the Inner Circle potentially breaking up, I suppose. It was good. I mean, I quite like Jericho. I think he's getting to the end of his career a little bit, but you can still cut a decent interview for me. I've been looking forward to the Inner Circle breaking up for a long time, though, if I'm honest, because I don't think they've really been doing anything. They haven't even really been working together. Again, this is one of the things again where I think someone's took their eye off the ball in creative. This should have happened a while back, I think. But I like how they've done it because it's believable, the fact that Santana and Ortiz didn't feel like they were getting the support from Jericho, because I think that's exactly how it looks as well to me. So I think that's a very believable storyline, and I think splitting them up will be a good thing. And I can see them, Santana and Ortiz going on a title run then, because I think they've got a lot of talent. I think they've been lost in the shuffle a bit. So I think that's a good thing. And hopefully next week, if it is next week when they have this meeting, let's hope really that they do split up. Jericho either goes off with Sammy and Hager, or on his own, and Santana and Ortiz possibly getting managed by someone else, really, anyone else, really. But I just think being part of the Inner Circle, I think the Inner Circle's old news now. I think it's time to move on to a new stable. That's what I think.
Yeah, I wrote down, is Inner Circle about to implode? And I agree. I think that's the route that they should go down with that. The whole thing with that stable has become a bit stale. And for me, the star of the group is Sammy Guevara, especially at the moment, what with him being the two-time TNT champion. I think he really needs to branch out on his own now.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I think he's the most talented one of the group by quite a way, actually. I do like Hager, and I don't think he's been used particularly well either. So maybe you might want to bring Hager back into some kind of feud. I think if he's booked correctly, I think it could be okay. But I think Sammy's a big star potentially, a very big. I mean, I would have been even. I mean, it might be a little bit early, but I would. Personally, I would think he might have been a better champion than Adam Page for me, even though he is quite young still.
Yeah, I've never been big on Hager myself. I don't think he's much of a draw personally. I can see why WWE didn't do that much with him, other than giving him a short run with the world title. He's not the strongest member of the Inner Circle by any stretch of the imagination, I don't think. Yeah, I would give that nod to Sammy Guevara, as I say. Jericho, yeah, fair play. He's still going strong. What is he now, 50, 51?
Yeah, he must be in his 50s, definitely, yeah.
So, yeah. That's all true. Still going strong.
Yeah, so he's. I mean, I don't think he's got that many years left. So I suppose you've got to get out of him what you can, because I think, I mean, he must be. I mean, next few years you would imagine he'll start breaking down a bit, really. You know, if he's, I don't know what he is exactly, but I'm sure he's well in his 50s now. So, but he's very charismatic. So, you know, I'm sure he could, even if he does sort of semi-retire, I think there's always going to be a place for him. I think in, you know, in either management role, or, you know, he's pretty good on commentary. He's not the worst guy on commentary, I don't think, as well. So I think he's still got stuff to offer.
Certainly better than Mark Henry.
Oh, don't get me started on Mark Henry. Good grief, that was a very, very bad acquisition. I think. I don't think he brings anything to the promotion. Whatever he's being paid, it's too much. I think.
Yeah. Agreed.
His commentary is. I mean, it's not the. Some of the commentary is not the best ever, but his commentary is by far the worst that I've heard in a long time. It's terrible. It sounds like it sounds to me as though his mind's working a lot slower than normal people. You know, it's just almost like he's working in slow motion all the time, and he's it's very, very disinteresting to listen to, and I don't know what he's doing for AEW, but I'm sure whatever they're paying him is too much money. So I agree with that. It's terrible. Terrible thing. It just goes to show as well, I think, Russell, that just because somebody's been a star in another promotion, don't mean to say you've just got to sign them all up, because you know, sometimes they haven't got anything left, or they didn't have anything in the first place, some of them. So I think that was a bad signing. I think so. So we're down at the main event now, and this, to me, this was a one of the best matches I've seen in a long time, actually. MJF versus CM Punk. Again, I was looking forward to the match anyway, so I kind of had high expectations, but the match delivered for me on every level, actually. There was a couple of things that I noticed that I liked. I like the spot where MJF choked Punk with the rope or the tape, whatever it was. That was a nice spot. I hadn't seen that before, and just thought it was nice. That was something new. Nice to see new stuff, because you don't want to see the same old thing. And I just thought that was really good how that worked, really. I also like the false finish that they did as well. So I liked a lot of the matches in AEW can tend to be a bit predictable, especially when you get the high flyers doing the same old thing every week. But this was really like, you tell they put a little bit of thought into it. And just thought it was just sort of kind of a classic match. I think it'll be one that you'll be able to watch again for a while. And I like the finish as well, even though I was quite surprised that they give MJF the win in the end, especially in Chicago. I was very surprised. But it sets up a really, really big rematch, though. So, because I was thinking, it didn't make sense to me at first, but then I'm thinking, well, you know, if you're going to have a pay-per-view in Chicago, that rematch is going to be massive. So it sets up an even kind of bigger match. The only other thing that I want to say is Wardlow looks like a star now. I was 50-50 on him coming in. Thought, I'm not sure really, you know, really, but in the last few weeks, I think Wardlow's really turning into a bit of a star now. It looks like a star, and I think we're just waiting now before he splits from MJF and probably feuds with MJF. I think, but I'm, you know, cause what AEW needs more of, they need more of the power guys. They need more few of the bigger guys. And I think Wardlow delivers on all that. And once he got rid of that stupid finisher that he did, where he just dropped people on his knee, which looked ridiculous and stupid, he's looked a lot better. Once he's done these power bombs, that's amazing. Looks amazing. Reminds me of kind of like a young Sid Vicious, where he used to just go into the ring and just like power bomb people continuously. That's just really good. I just like that a lot. And he's really over as a big guy. which there's not a lot of people in AEW that are over like that. So I love the match really. I can't. It must be probably in my top 2 or 3 in AEW history, I think, actually. So I very liked it.
It was a very strong match, definitely. Yeah, I liked the length of it. I liked what they did with it. I thought the false finish was really cleverly done. Yeah, as you say, surprised to see MGF get the win in Chicago, Punk's hometown. But as you say, it sets itself up for a big rematch down the line. As far as Wardlow is concerned, turn him face already. You know, why are they dragging that out? I don't understand. So yeah, that's my take on it. But yeah, it was a very very strong match. Probably the one of, if not the best Dynamite main events so far this year, at least I would say. Yeah, what I don't get is why MJF hardly ever wrestles. You know, he's a believable heel, and I think he could do with a bit more ring time. But I guess that's all part of his character and his gimmick, really.
Yeah. I think it's basically I think it's because he's so strong on the mic that he doesn't need to wrestle to get over or to with it. So I think you can do a 5-minute interview segment with MJF, and he gets over just as much as he would being in the ring. And I also think,
true.
This is just my feeling, but I also think that by not overexposing him, I think that's making him more special as well, because you're not seeing him every week, and when you do see him, it's kind of like a special occasion. Oh, MGF's wrestling now, So I know what you mean. It seems weird because out of all the people in AEW, he's probably wrestled the least out of everyone. Yet he's probably one of the biggest stars. But I think that's the reason. And the other thing about Wardlow is, I think the waiting until MGF's got a space so he can have a feud. So I think it'll be coming soon. Obviously, I think there'll be a bit of a break now. I reckon he'll go back with Punk, possibly at pay-per-view. So I think in the meantime, maybe Wardlow might be the man now who's just there's gonna be a turn. And then they'll maybe have a little bit of a feud, maybe, or possibly feud with Sean Spears first, maybe as well. But I agree with you. I think he's ready to turn. He's ready to turn face now, and he's ready to be be a big star, because they don't have that many very good. There's a lot. I'm trying to think. A lot of really big name, big face type characters. So I think he'd fit in there really well. So that's the show, Russell. So overall, I think, to me, it was one of the best shows I've seen overall. If you forget the Nyla Rose match, I think it was a superb show, really, for me. I loved the format. I loved the fact that there was a lot more interview segments. There was a bit more build for stuff, and the matches were all right. A couple of them were really good. I really liked the main event. I loved the tag team match. So I think, to me, it was a very strong show, and I think if they can keep that momentum going, and also keep that format going where they can keep pushing people, keep building up storylines and things. There's a lot to, if coming off that show, I think there's a lot of things that you look forward to. You want to see MGF and Punk again. You want to see what's happening in a circle. There's a lot of things you want to see. What I want to see Randy getting an ass kicked by Paige Van Zandt, for example. So there's a lot of things coming out of that show that makes me want to see it, and I think that's the whole idea, really. You want to get a show where people want to tune in for the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. It was certainly an improvement on the previous 2 or 3 weeks, which I personally felt were a little lackluster. But this week showed, massive improvement, and as you say, a lot there that they can build on, definitely, and a lot to take interest in, definitely, with a few of the storylines and the feuds they've got going on. So the next few weeks and months should be quite interesting.
Yeah. So overall, as I say, I think I think it was a good, like I say, good show, and we'll see what happens, in the coming weeks. But I think they seem to be getting the footing a bit now, whereas, for the first, I mean, it's only quite new, obviously, it's not been they've only been around a few years, but they seem now to be really getting in the groove. There's a few things like we talked about that I think they're still making mistakes on. I think the women's division is definitely massively improved. But I still think they're not pushing certain, they're pushing people that they shouldn't be pushing, I think. But they've certainly got a lot more talent now, and I just think they need to build up people a bit more, really. And one criticism that I've got as well, Russell, is that when they bring people in who could have been champions or big names from outside, there's no build for them at all. I mean, like, for example, Jay Lethal turned up on Dynamite, I think it was, for a TNT title shot, which is nice to see. There was no build, and I'd like to see some sort of build, saying, I mean, you don't have to mention that he was, Ring of Honor champion or anything like that if you don't want, but he's a big star. I'd like to see maybe even get a few wins before he got the title shot and build him up in a few segments and things. I don't think they're doing that. They may be doing it a bit more now, but I think that's something that you want to do a bit more, because especially if you sign someone new, someone who's a star, you want to get everything you can out of that. Really, I think that's what I think on that anyway.
Yeah, I agree. He's been with the company for a cup of coffee, effectively, and had 2 title shots already. I mean, let's face it, who cares? Who cares about the AEW title anyway? It was a good match on Rampage, don't get me wrong, against Ricky Starks, but seriously, 2 title matches, and as you say, they've done very little to build him up. So I think that was all a bit rushed, really. They need to find someone for him to feud with and build himself up a bit that way, I think.
Yeah, I agree, and I don't have a problem with him getting title shots, really, but I just think that you needed to build him. I mean, the thing is, most people will be aware of Jay Lethal, probably, but a lot of people might not, though. A lot of people might not have watched Ring of Honor a lot or at all. So if you're not aware of him, it's just some guy who you might remember back in TNA days, even. I don't know. So I think, and this is. I think this is an AEW thing, where they expect all the fans to know everything about everyone, and this, and they expect all the fans to like follow Japan and all the indies, and a lot of the fans don't. And I think when people come in, and it's like they did the same thing with a couple of guys from Japan, where they expected everyone to know exactly who they were and what they'd done and what titles they'd won. And a lot of fans probably never even heard of them, actually. So that's where I think they need to sort of take a step back and sort of say, let's get these guys over. Let's do a few packages and tell people, about the past, if they're a legend in Japan or whatever. Tell people what they've done, who they've beat, all that jazz. Whereas they just bring them in and go, well, so and so, he's a legend. Well, I've never heard of him, whatever. So, and I think that's the problem with sometimes a lot of the indie guys. I mean, like, for example, I've seen Danhausen a few times, but I've not even seen him a lot. But they expected everybody to know who he was, and unless you follow the indies or recently Ring of Honor, you won't even probably have heard of him. So it'll just be like some weird guy who's turned up in a weird costume. So that's one thing I think they need to look at as well, I think.
Yeah.
So, right, any closing comments, Russell, before we sign off?
Not that I can think of. I think we've covered pretty much everything. Just going to ask if you could remind me what the card is for next week.
Yeah, to be honest, I can't. Off the top of my head, I can't remember because I've last one I watched was Rampage, so I've got kind of Rampage in my mind. I don't. From memory, I think we've got the Inner Circle business coming up, and we've got the Texas Death Match, I think, with Lance Archer. That's the main event. Lance Archer and Page main event, which I'm expecting a good match out of that. I think that'll be very good. Off the top of my head, can't really recall anything else right now. But I've just kind of recently just gone through Rampage. You see, so I've got Rampage in my brain right now. So I think I think that'll be a good. I think it'll be a good card again. I think we're chugging along all right. But let's see if old Brandy turns up again, for another segment. So right then, so we'll sign off for today then. So if we're still feeling it, we might do another update next week for next week's AEW Dynamite. This was the this update was for the, just in case you're watching back, it was for the 2nd of February, this one. So we'll see, we'll come back next week with more of our takes anyway. So okay, so good to see you anyway, Russell, and we'll sign off now.
Okay, cheers, Jason.